Okay, devlog for May 2021. All right, well, let's first quickly talk about Unreal Engine 5. Unreal Engine 5 has been released in early access. I'm just gonna say right now, I'm not interested in Unreal Engine 5 for now. As long as it's not in. I was interested in getting the demo for the Lands of the Ancients or some shit. But that demo is 100 gigabytes and I literally can't run it on my PC. I have an i7 and a 2070. And apparently you need like a 3080 or something. And like, yeah, I'm not gonna get a 3000. 3000. I can't even buy one because there are no GPUs anymore. Because thanks to the fucking crypto miners. Oh my god, I hope they die in their sleep or something. Fuck those guys. But yeah, Unreal Engine 5. I wanted to check out the demo, but the requirements for the demo are just stupidly high. So not interested. Okay, but everything that was showcased in Unreal Engine 5 is like, well, technically I can call myself an Unreal developer now because I've been developing for over 1 year in Unreal. I'm actually, I think, allowed to talk about this. Most of the shit that was shown in Unreal Engine 5 demo was not useful for me. The first thing I don't want to... The biggest problem I have with Unreal Engine 5 is while their nanite technology is amazing, and the concept of having billions of polygons in a game and the game just automatically down scales the level of detail is amazing. It's incredible technology. But here's one problem with that technology. Other people already have called this out. The file sizes are going to be fucking insane. Like, you can improve the performance of high poly meshes, but you can't condense the size of those damn things. The small trailer, the small demo alone is 100 gigabytes. Like, if you're gonna make a game of exclusively these like high resolution mega scans, then your game is gonna be well over... Actually, I don't even know how you could scale this within a terabyte. Like, what the hell? It's too ridiculous. So even though it's something I really think they should stop flagshiping that technology, because honestly, do we really want games that are terabytes in size? No, we fucking don't. And I think it's really more a technology showcase, and I think Epic Games should make it obvious that it's for movie production. Like, it could be useful in movie productions where they are using scenes that are just condensed into a single what you call it? Yeah, a single, like, just a single project. Like, you have a project for one scene, and that scene is like 100 gigabytes or something, and that's fine, that's manageable. But if you have a project that's like a terabyte big, like, oh, I'd get a headache just thinking about it. So yeah, just because of the size. But there was one thing in the entirety of the Unreal Engine 5 demo that I loved, and I'm going to talk about it later, and that's the live editing of animation. Animation editing in Unreal, I actually have not played with it too much, but you can't really edit animations properly in Unreal. You have to go to your external program. For me, that's Blender. For others, 3D Max. For others, Maya, whatever. You have to go into your program and then re-import it back into Unreal, and it's a nightmare. And being able to just edit shit in Unreal is just a dream come true. That's just the one thing I want for... There are two things I want from Unreal Engine 5. You can't see my hands. Two. Again, I don't give a shit about the polygon reduction. The polygon reduction is useless to me. I'm never going to work with those. I'm never going to work with raw sculpts in a game because of the gigabytes of data I need. It's just too much data. I don't want... Like, my project is 10 gigabytes and I'm already getting tired of the wait times of like packing it shit in and like backing that shit up. Like, I'm not going to work with that shit. But there are two things. One, the animation improvements in Unreal Engine 5 are amazing, and I want to see what I can do with it. Two, global illumination that apparently uses some kind of hybrid system between hardware acceleration and software magic. Apparently, it is screen space, so reflections are not going to work or some shit. I don't know. I have been getting this from other people's comments, and I don't know how legit those comments are. and I have not dived into. I mean, no one has dived. Like, I actually tried to look, and like, no respectable developer or other person has already released a video on Unreal Engine 5 and be like, yeah, this is what you can do with Unreal Engine 5. We don't know yet. We don't know. I don't know. And people who do know, they are still experimenting and see like, oh, what can you do with Unreal Engine 5? It's too early to tell what Unreal Engine 5 is going to be and what's going to be accomplished. Okay, so AI navigation. So last time I was really... I feel kind of stupid for complaining about not being able to figure out how navigation works, because I figured it out 10 minutes after like my next session started for developing. I was like, oh, this is how it works. All right. AI navigation is working, and it works a lot better than it used to. Okay, so I'm gonna stop it because otherwise the robot sounds are going to drive me nuts. I'm trying to talk. So why did I make my own custom navigation? I think I told this last time. I'm gonna quickly reiterate it right now. I'm also gonna get... Oh god, I don't think I have anything that's... I could get a trooper and then take his gun away. Hope he's not gonna get too mad at that. Can I take his gun away? Weapon, shop. Setup. Too many variables. Where's this fucking child actor? Oh my god, full blueprints. Just fists. So he doesn't shoot me. Okay, it works. The problem I had... It doesn't work. Oh, it does. Okay, because he's a ranged enemy. I'll talk about it later. So the problem I had with the old navigation was that the AI was able to do instant 90-degree turns. The reason... So it was basically... If you know Tron, you know how cars in Tron make these like instant 90-degree turns? That's the exact problem I had with the AI and the old AI system. The AI did not respect movement acceleration, and it would just... They would do instant 90-degree turns, just full speed, and it was extremely jarring. Especially if they had to do a bunch of like cuts really quickly after each other, it just looks silly. So now the AI will actually properly decelerate around the corner, and it actually depends on how sharp the corner is, how much they decelerate. So if it's a sharp corner, the AI will decelerate a lot. However, if it's a shallow corner, the AI will not try and decelerate. Because during my first testing, when I always forced the AI to decelerate, when it was a shallow corner, they came to a complete halt, and they just stuttered forward. So that has been fixed. I really need to like just set this up in advance. So if these right here are basically a series of shallow corners, and the AI does not decelerate. It will actually just properly follow the lines without decelerating to the navigation point. If I go to here, which has sharp corners, the AI will actually properly decelerate before turning the corner. You could saw that right there. He stopped and then he started moving. And the way I calculated this, I just take his navigation point and then take his next navigation point, and I calculate the angle between the navigation points. And based on that angle, I tell how much the AI needs to decelerate in order to not, in order to maintain speed on shallow corners, but drop speed in high speed corners, like they're a fucking race car. The reason why I have to do that is if I didn't do that, this AI would literally yeet himself off the edge, because the AI would not decelerate around the corner. So the AI would approach the corner, go. It would then try and go to the right, but it would not decelerate backwards. So it would decelerate and it would start moving to the right, and it would just Tokyo drift straight into the pit. And yeah, that was kind of fun. As funny as it was to constantly see the AI run themselves to death, that has been fixed. So if I go to my navigation, so it's in. I need to explain all of this. I'm actually going to go into detail this time. Because, I mean, fuck it. If someone wants to go watch a 1 hour devlog, be my fucking guest. Welcome to the show. Alright. Yeah, these files have been getting kind of big. What was I going to do? Oh yeah, figure navigation out. Find navigation. Find next. AI perform melee strafe, perform range strafe. Find next navigation location. That's the one. So in order to get the navigation, last time I said I had trouble finding the navigation points, and I found them. I found them. The Amber Alert can go away. I found it. So in order to get the navigation points, you first call the nav system, which is a worlds component, I guess. It will give you the nearest navigation system, the navigation system the AI is currently in. It will then, you can then call a new path with find path location synchronously, which technically speaking is better to call asynchronously. Let multi-threading do its magic, and then like I think you can get a notified back when once it has it, and that would be better. But honestly, I have no performance problems with navigation path, so it's fine. And at most, a navigation path only has like 2 to 3 nav points, so it's honestly not that bad. And then when you get your new path, you can get path points, and the path points are your vertex locations. Right? Yes. And once you have your nav points, I said this last video, you unlock navigation, and I can just find the shortest path and make it follow it. Great. That's fixed. So that's how AI navigation works with custom AI. Just get a navigation system, get a navigation path, and then in the navigation path there's a pointer to your path points. Boom, you got it. Nice work. So let's talk about AI state machine and AI detection. So the AI currently consists. I forgot this. Fuck. Okay. Krita. Best. GIMP sucks, by the way. Just my opinion. I'm not gonna talk about it, but I don't like GIMP. New file. Krita is amazing. And apparently better because apparently everything Adobe makes crashes. So joy. Talking about Photoshop. Okay. I have two things in the AI system that I'm using. The first thing I have is the AI controller. So AI, I write with my left hand, but I draw with my right hand. This is going to be annoying. AI, and I'm a bad writer. AI controller. So I have an AI controller which is going to be attached to. I'm just going to do everything with my left hand for now because it doesn't have to be pretty. It's connected to the AI. No, it's connected to the pawn, which is the actual character, which can be a player or an AI. It doesn't matter. The AI controller sends information to the AI pawn. The AI controller has another class attached to it, which basically is the AI state machine. AI ST, AI state machine. The AI state machine is completely sends information to the AI controller, and the AI controller also sends information. So this is basically a dual dependency. Not something you want, but these two components are so integrated to each other. Double dependency, and honestly, it's fine. You can see this as like one big block. It's honestly doesn't really matter. It's a double dependency because it's so integrated with each other. It's fine. Whatever. So the AI state machine. So what's the difference between the two? The AI controller just handles detection. So I'm not gonna write it down because it's unreadable anyway. AI controller handles AI detection, and it basically just keeps track of which enemies are in vision, which enemies are have left vision, what is the current target, and this is also where I'm sending the cue. So if a sound is made, send a cue to the AI. If the AI is getting shot in the back, tell the AI, oh, you're getting shot in the back. You might want to turn around. I can actually show that off right now. Might help if I get an AI. Need to remember to give the grenadier his AR back. Otherwise, he's gonna like storm the capital or something. Let's get a bot. No, bots make annoying noises. Rifleman. No, I just took his weapon. PDW. Oh, he has no health, but okay. God. If I make a sound, the AI will look at me. So it's like, hey, I hear the shot. But it won't actually go towards me. Because I don't want the entire enemies of the entire level that have been spawned in to walk towards me when I make a shot. That's going to be extremely annoying. And it's just going to mean that the entire fight is going to take place in one like room, the room I shot in, because all the AI is going to just stream towards where I got shot, where I shot. So what I've done is the AI will investigate you if you damage the AI. So if you damage the AI will go towards you. So you can't cheese the AI by like standing around the corner and like slowly whittling him down with explosives, because he will investigate like what the hell is shooting him. So there are basically two types of AI cues. There are low threat cues, which are gunshots, because I mean if you hear gunshots, no worries. You're not bleeding yet, so who cares? Then if you get shot, then it's like, okay, well, maybe I should react. And that's then a high threat. So if you damage a pawn, it's a high threat cue, and it's like, okay, like let's go and investigate because I don't want to get shot again. So yeah, that's the AI queue system. So the AI queue system and the AI. So what does the state machine does? The AI queue basically holds the information, and the AI state machine holds basically tells the AI what to do with that information. Now, the AI state machine has then a ton of like child classes. So these are going to be the archetypes. I talked about this last time. I was gonna say that instead of having a AI for every, I still have it in my Unreal. So if I go to Unreal, go to, okay, I'm recording. Go to my AI. Here. So I used to have unique AIs for every enemy. Fuck that shit. I'm not doing this anymore. So instead of having a custom AI for every single fucking enemy, I'm gonna do this a lot smarter. And I already said about it. So what I now have is I now have child classes of the state machine that corresponds to a specific archetype. So I have 4 archetypes right now. I have melee, which I'm just let's draw pretty pictures for the kids, like just a sword, you know. Melee. I have ranged enemies. Pew pew pew. Then I have flyers. Oh, what I'm gonna do for this one? Like wing. a leaf, I guess. So a flyer archetype, which handles flying enemies. And then I'll also have a trooper archetype for human enemies, which um having a unique archetype for human enemies is honestly something I don't really. Right now, the implementation of the human AI is practically the same as ranged archetypes. So, but I'm gonna keep the human AI a separate thing because humans are kind of like their own separate behavior, you know. So I maybe in the future I will make a better differentiation between just generic ranged enemies and human enemies. But right now, I guess human enemies can also be melee enemies. It's whatever. But so I now have 4 archetypes, really free: melee, ranged, flyer, and that is a very big improvement compared to. Let's see how many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Uh, uh, so I now have 3 different archetypes basically, for which I previously needed 4. But it gets better because of I can now no longer I can now add new enemies without having to open Visual Studio and program shit, because everything is now handled via these archetypes, and I can just because I said in the previous video, the only thing that's different between the AI, like the only difference between 2 melee enemies, is the way the attacks are being handled. So that's now being handled in the pawn. So in the pawn, I now have structs. So structs. Oh my god. With AI conditions. AI conditions. And the AI state machine will read the AI conditions for specific attacks. So if I go to my trooper, and if I go to escape pawn AI conditions, I now have 6 different attacks. So each of these conditions corresponds to a attack, and it basically just has a bunch of variables which, if it applies to those variables, it will initiate an attack. I should actually go to something because a human only has one attack type, which is fired or firearm. So let's actually go to an enemy that has multiple attacks. Which enemy has the most attacks? Probably the warlock. Let's find the warlock. Entities, demonic creatures, warlock. So here I see I have a Charlie attack, which will correspond to the AI conditions of Charlie conditions. If the Charlie conditions are correct, and the AI state machine that, hey, the attack chance is correct. So attack chance basically means how much chance there is for each game tick for the attack to be initiated. So basically, if the attack chance check fails, every other check just isn't done. Like, okay, the attack chance failed, so who gives a shit? If the attack chance succeeds, it will go to all the other variables and it will check if all those other variables are correct. So it will check if the current target is within a max range. It will check if it's in a max pitch angle, which basically means certain attacks I don't want the AI to like look up. Basically, melee attacks. Melee attacks will have a max pitch angle of ground level. So if an enemy is really high above you, the pitch angle will be really high, and it basically means that the player is not within range, so don't attack. Then there is max yaw angle. Yaw is your rotation. Like if I would spin around in my chair, that's the yaw. So this basically means that if the AI has a forward attack, don't do that forward attack when someone's behind you because you're gonna look like a fucking idiot. Attack immobile basically means it immobilizes the AI. So certain attacks, such as firing a firearm with a trooper, does not immobilize the trooper because the trooper can shoot on the move. However, a melee attack like a punch is an immobile attack because during the punch you can't walk. Well, by the logic of the game, like this, in ieder geval. Then there is jumping attacks, which is currently not used. I actually have not yet implemented jumping attacks, and I'm gonna tell you something funny. I actually completely forgot about it. This is gonna be something I have to add to my list because I completely forgot I need to add jumping attacks. The reason why I need to add jumping attacks, I need to add an ability for the AI that if you stand in an unreachable location, the AI will try to get to you via a jump. That's something I still need to do. Well, good that I just remembered that. Then there is attack cooldown. That's basically how long the cooldown is between attacks. So certain really high threat attacks will have a long cooldown, and as long as that cooldown is not met, don't do shit. This basically prevents enemies from spamming their high threat attacks, and high threat attacks will only happen once in a while. Alright, attack duration. That pretty much ties in back to immobility. Attack duration doesn't do jack shit if the attack is not an immobile attack. If the attack is not immobile, attack duration doesn't do shit. Actually, it does do shit. It prevents other attacks from occurring, so never mind. Then there is attack tracking duration. That is how long the AI will track you when they are performing an attack. So the AI that will do a punch, it will like try and track for like a few milliseconds, a few hundreds of a millisecond, and it will be like, okay, I'm not going to track anymore, and then it will just punch forward. This is to prevent the AI from perfectly tracking the player and just punching you and being unable to dodge shit. Then there is retaliation attack. Retaliation attack makes it so if I click this, if the AI has been damaged by a enemy, the AI controller will set a flag called, I don't know what's called. It's like it has been attacked or some shit. When has been attacked is set, then retaliation attack overrides the attack chance. So if retaliation attack is set, then if the AI has been damaged, the AI will always retaliate. So it will always fight back. So I'm gonna get an Fury because they have a really low attack chance. Now I say this, and then luck of the dice makes it so they only start attacking. Okay. Yeah, Fury has a really low attack chance, so it doesn't fire, it doesn't shoot. It's stuck in the ground, I think. So I'm just gonna have to put her up there. Alright. So the AI will not... will have a pretty low attack chance. There's an attack. So, you know, like, it's pretty chill right now. Not too bad. Oh, there's two after another. But if I start shooting... she starts spamming because she is getting attacked, so she will be like, oh, I'm getting attacked, I should fight. So the AI will become much more aggressive when you start fighting. And now, why have I done this? The reason why I've done this is if you are fighting multiple enemies, it's going to be really annoying if the enemies are spamming their attacks at you because it's basically going to be impossible to dodge everything. However, if I make the attack chance too low, that means that if I'm fighting a single enemy, then it's very likely that that enemy will never attack me, and I just shoot them, and it will just look like the AI is incompetent. So what this does is this fixes the problem of... So now I can have the attack chance of enemies low, so they don't just spam at you, and you're just getting overwhelmed. But it still makes the AI aggressive if you're attacking them, so the AI appears aggressive. Alright, so... This is not new technology. This is literally something that was done in the first Doom. Like, even the guys who made Doom, the first Doom, like, ITech knew, like, oh, we should make it so enemies retaliate if you shoot them. Amazing how many modern games can't do that. We will just stand still and let you shoot them. It's incredible. The regression in certain games. What else is there to say? I think that's everything about the AI. Yes. probably. Okay, one thing I can say. So right now the AI conditions are limited to 6 attacks. So an AI can only have 6 attacks. So alpha to foxtrot. So 6 attacks. What I can do is I can make an array that you can just, technically a vector, that you can just expand forever, and then it will return the index, and I can just have as many attacks and as many attack conditions for each attack as I want. Can do that, but honestly, no enemy is gonna use more than 6 attacks. Most enemies only have 2 to 3 attacks, so 6 would be excessive. I actually think it would be bad game design to give an enemy more than 4 attacks, because it's just, unless it's a special enemy type, you can't expect the player to, how do you say it? Like prepare for over 6 attacks. Like to some extent, an enemy needs to remain simple in their behavior, so a player can understand it. When you give an enemy 6 different attacks, that the player then has to account for every one of those attacks while playing. So if you have like 3 different enemies on screen, and they all can do 6 attacks, then the player has to account for 18 different possibilities that can happen, which is just, well, technically even more, but it's gonna get kind of confusing. Uses of interfaces. No, the rocket launcher. Okay, let's show the rocket launcher. Oh, I should have got some water. God damn it. I'm not used to talking. Okay, rocket launcher. This is the last weapon I'm gonna add before releasing the demo. I mean, you can't have a first-person shooter without a rocket launcher, now can you? No, you don't. It's ridiculous. Not really. There are plenty of first-person shooters that are great and don't have a rocket launcher, but I want a rocket launcher. So there is one in. It has, compared to the grenade launcher, it has a 50% lower fire rate. So it is... So it's way less effective at close range. However, it also has a 50% higher projectile velocity. So it's much easier to hit distant enemies. It even comes with an alt fire mode that guides the rockets. Ooh, where's it going? Just go there. Yeah, so the turn rate isn't amazing. So basically, if you fail to hit your initial target, you're better off just turning guided off and just resuming with normal rocket fire. They're actually great against Furies. Like, if you hate... They're a really hard enemy to hit, and making guided rockets makes hitting them a lot easier. But yeah, that's the rocket launcher. It's a basic weapon. It's obviously completely like not yet done. I quickly made a basic mock-up of it in Blender and put it in because I couldn't be bothered to model. Like I didn't want to model. That's a rocket launcher. Like there's just not much to say about it. It's a rocket launcher. We all know what a rocket launcher is. Interfaces, I think. All right, uses of interfaces. Okay. Oh, okay. I'm currently following a course, a computer science course, about what? About software architecture and design. I'm actually not a CS student. I'm actually an electrical engineering student, but I was able to do an extra course in order to get my, I think it's internationally it's ECK, like study points, whatever, for like study points. And it's been a really nice coincidence I've been able to follow that course exactly when I'm reworking everything in C++, because I've learned about interfaces. And I'm going to quickly show why that is important. So I have drawn an arrow from AI controller to pawn. Because the AI controller is dependent on the pawn. Sadly, the pawn is also dependable on the AI controller. That's not good. You don't want that. Why is that bad? Because the pawn is okay. When in programming, if you have a dependency, that means that shit can break upstream. So if I make a change to pawn, a change. Oh god. Don't write it right-handed. Oh god. Okay, change. If you make a change to the pawn, shit above here can break. We all know this lovely word called spaghetti code. That's how spaghetti code happens. You have a dependency here in pawn for AI controller and AI. See, look, AI controller and AI state machine are always going to be dependent on pawn. There's nothing I can do about that. That's just the way it is, and that's fine. But you don't want double dependency, because here's what can happen. Let's say you make a change to pawn and something breaks in your AI controller. Whoops. Then you edit AI controller so it doesn't break. But now something breaks in pawn, and then you have an infinite loop of, I mean, you have to be a miraculously bad programmer to cause a loop of failures like that. But and usually it doesn't happen to two things, but now you have to edit AI controller, and then you have to edit AI state machine, and then you have to edit, and it can cause a chain reaction through your entire code, and then suddenly you're found hanging off a bridge or some shit. You know, we don't want that, I think. So what we do is, instead of creating this dependency, we can use an interface. So we can use an interface here, so which we call AI interface or something. AI interface. So instead of being dependent, oh, I should probably say I'm not a bad programmer. I don't have an actual dependency in a AI controller for Pawn. The reason why Pawn has a dependency to AI controller is simply when I'm making the object. So when I'm making Pawn, I need to create controller. That's basically what's going wrong. I don't actually rely on AI controller in Pawn. That would be bad, but I still need to like tell the code that I'm running this AI controller. So for initialization, I do need to have the pawn make contact with the controller. Now, what I can do is, instead of initializing towards the controller, I can initialize towards the interface. And then the interface can initialize to the controller. And you might say, "Oh well, you've moved your problem." Great. No, I've not. The interface creates a block here. So the interface is not dependent upon the AI controller. The AI controller is dependent on the interface. So the pawn is dependent on the interface, and the AI controller is dependent on the interface, but it doesn't create a two-way loop. So what I can do now is I can initialize via the AI controller, and the AI controller is now no longer the pawn is no longer dependent on the AI controller. I have not yet done this, but I have done this for something else. I'm gonna just quickly go to a new position. So I have actually successfully used an interface yesterday for as like practice. Like, see, can I actually use interfaces to reduce dependencies? And I have done that. So in my weapon functions, so weapon, oh my god, just draw a fucking sword. There, it's a sword. Weapon functions. And then I have my pawn, so pawn, whatever. Oh god, you got to see my drawing practice. Oh no. In my pawn, I have a damage function. So deal damage. So, oh god, left-handed. So deal damage. Deal damage. However, my weapon functions are now dependent on pawn. So if pawn changes, shit can break in weapon functions, and that also needs to be recompiled. So instead of having deal damage to pawn, so there needs to be a header in here. Instead of doing that shit, just get rid of that. Instead of doing, I have a damage interface. I've made a damage interface. So can I write digit damage interface? Oh god, disgusting. So I have made a damage interface. Now what I can do is I can use multiple inheritance to inherit the damage interface for pawn. So now my weapon functions are only dependent on the damage interface and not on the pawn. And why did I do this? Like, is it really that bad to just have a single dependency to pawn? Now, first of all, damage interface, I can actually show this in the code. If I go to my pawn, this is how big my pawn is. It's actually not that big because most of it is a movement. This is the header for pawn. And if I go to my damage interface, it's empty because it's in the header. This is how big the header big the damage interface is. So you can kind of see that I have a lot less dependency now. Now, I already said I did this because of a reason. The reason is destructibles. I also have destructible entity, destructible actor. So a explosive barrel. So just say E barrel, which is more electronic barrel, which like I guess it's on Instagram or some shit. But the E barrel, I also want to do damage to the E barrel. And the way I had to do this before is I had to go into my weapon functions and then make an exception for barrel. So I had to say then if the hit entity, the hit actor is a pawn, then run this code. If the hit entity, the hit actor is a barrel, then hit the barrel. What I can now do is I can just make a barrel class, use multiple inheritance to inherit the interface. And I don't have to make any changes to weapon functions. Weapon functions does not have to be changed. Amazing. I can just make a barrel, class barrel, make a multiple inheritance on the interface, then write the implementation logic in the barrel, and I don't have to change anything to weapon functions. And I can keep going. Let's say I want to add vehicles, right? Just a wheel. Let's say I want to add Let's say I want to add vehicles. Guess what? I can just use multiple inheritance to inherit the damage interface. And now vehicles can take damage from weapon functions. And I don't have to write any vehicle related code in weapon functions because it's all handled via the interface. It's amazing. Seriously, I'm so happy I'm following this software architecture design because I would never have figured this out or even known about this. Like I would have not known about interface. I would not have known about multiple inheritance. So yeah, my code is a lot better now. Joy. What's next? Notepad. My voice is dying actually because I'm not used to talking this loud this much. I need to be fast. Reconsidering animations. Okay, so I have 2 tabs open. I don't even know how I started this, but I need to rethink animations, and mostly I already said last time that I am thinking about adding more procedural animation, and I've actually been attempting to work with it. I've watched this amazing GDC video of the guy who made Overgrowth, and he basically showcased how he used only 13 keyframes, I believe. Yeah, 13 keyframes, and then used curves and interpolation to then create uh, all the other animations. So he was able to make an entire animation set with just 3 keyframes. And it's really something I need to be doing as well, because I have not been really using the power of animation curves to my advantage. A great example to me to showcase that is the PDW reload animation. You see that slap where the gun moves to the right after it hits the keyframe. So the keyframe is going to the right and then it overshoots. I painstakingly hand animated that by keyframe. So I added a keyframe slightly overshoot, and I added a keyframe of it going back. I can make this animation, technically speaking, with only 2 keyframes. The final part where the gun goes back and then slaps it. Because I can just make an animation curve that does this, and then the animation curve will automatically make the gun swing around. I don't have to hand animate that. So I'm really going to go back to my animations and just use less keyframes, but use smarter uses of animation curves to get that shit right. So things look better. Inverse kinematics, like, it's actually amazing. Another thing I've found is procedural walk animation. This is a Unreal plugin made by someone, which I unfortunately can't use because this Unreal animation plugin is using the basic character movement, and I'm running my own custom movement, so I can't use this. I mean, I could send a message to the author and tell like, hey, can you like edit your plugin to accept custom movement? But honestly, I'm someone who likes to do shit on their own, so I'm just gonna. There is enough information in this like documentation that I can just reverse engineer this into my own functions, and that's just what I'm going to do. It's going to be a lot of work, and by all means, it's you should, by all means, it would be easier to just buy this and like see if I can jury rig it to work with my custom animations. But honestly, I just want to do it myself. I like programming. Like, I have not hated programming. Like, you might if you go to like programming humor in on the fucking Reddit, it's like, oh, programmers hate programming. I don't hate programming. I actually say programming, the foundation of the game, while occasionally frustrating, has been one of the most fun things I've done in the last month. Yes, I know. Programming the entire foundation of a game, it was actually really enjoyable. I mean, that's all there is to say. I'm gonna do this during the summer break because I need just multiple days of just uninterrupted workflow to work on this. I don't want to do just because right now I occasionally work an hour a day on the game, and I'm not gonna occasionally work on procedural animation. I just want to do it in like 2 weeks and just work on it back to back without interruption because I need to focus. This is important to get right. How long have I been talking? I don't want to. I don't want to see. 53 minutes. Yeah, I'm gonna cut the first part out. Oh god. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna remake my animation system. It's gonna be more modular. I'm just gonna use better systems, whatever, and it's gonna be amazing. Updated movement. Do I even want to talk about this? Okay. Real quick, my animation, my movement has been improved. It can now do 2 things. it can now correctly walk up and down stairs. It couldn't walk up and down stairs. It previously could only walk up and down ramps. I'll show why that is. Another thing that I've fixed is I can now stand on moving platforms. When I did my first playtesting with the old movement, I immediately fell through the elevator because I wouldn't follow moving platforms, and I can now just follow moving shit. Great. Okay. Those are the 2 upgrades. Movement is now pretty good. There's only one bug with movement, and I need to fix that. So how does movement work? Line. Shitty line. Imagine this is flat. Good enough. So if my character is moving forward, and my character is a capsule, that's how it looks in the game. If my character is moving forward, it's constantly trying to see if it hit a step. So what it's doing is it's drawing a capsule high in the sky above a certain height, so which will be the step height. That will be how high a object can be for me to step on it. So step height. And then it's also will go into the negative, so the minus step height. If I find a floor, I will then move my capsule up first. This is a sweep test. This is not actually moving the capsule. I will then get the capsule here, and then I will move the capsule forward like this. And as long as I don't get interrupted by moving this, I'll be like, oh, okay, so I can move there. And then I will, and then so basically the character gets teleported to the location it needs to be. It's a bad explanation, but I don't want to fully explain it. But it took me a what you say? It took me a pretty ridiculous amount of time to figure it out. Another thing that happens is if it detects a new service and it accepts the new service, it will bind the actor to the whatever actor it is walking on, and that's how I'm standing on moving platforms. What else? AI attack update, talked about that, so fuck off. Retaliation logic, talked about that. Oh, I've talked about everything. Fantastic.